Okay, we are live, everybody. So aloha kakahiaka kako. Welcome to the City and County of Honolulu Climate Change Commission meeting for March 2023. And I call this meeting to order. Karan, will you please do the roll call?
Good morning, everyone. Chair Aligato,
Present.
Vice Chair Keener,
Present.
Commissioner Otsuka,
Present.
Commissioner Romine,
Present. Aloha, everybody.
Commissioner Islam is absent today, Chair.
Noted.
You have quorum.
Mahalo. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 2023. Those all went out on attachment, and I do have it pulled up and I can share screen. I'm prepared to share screen for some of the documents that we have under discussion today. But I thought first I would just ask whether any of the commissioners have corrections. And if there are, then I will share screen. We can go through it. So
No corrections for me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Vice Chair. I'm gonna ask Commissioner Otsuka if you had any comments. You were absent from the January meeting, I believe.
Yeah, no comments for me.
Great. Commissioner Romine?
No, thank you, Chair. No comments on the minutes. Thanks.
Okay, great. And so I will now at this time, as is our kind of regular thing, is to ask if there are any comments from the public about our minutes. And just as a reminder to the public, we do have specific time for whatever other public testimony, but I'm asking now for any comments specifically relating to our January our January meeting. Okay. Please indicate by either raising your Zoom hand or adding it to the chat. I'm also monitoring the chat. Seeing none, I would like to ask if there's a motion to adopt the minutes of the Climate Change Commission meeting from January 2023.
I'll motion to adopt the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, and then I think we have to vote to approve. And can I have a raise of hands showing those who vote aye? Okay. And so we note that we have 3 ayes. Do we have any nays? No nays. And then do we have any abstentions? Okay, Commissioner Otsuka is abstaining, I believe, because she was absent from that meeting. So we will be adopting the minutes for January. Let's move on to the next agenda item. We're rolling right around here. I'm excited because this is a very full meeting. Our next agenda item is a report on the activities of the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. So I'll be asking Director Gonzer to please update us.
Sure. Aloha. Good morning. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and members of the community. Matt Gonzer, Executive Director for the City's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. And definitely appreciate the opportunity, as always, to highlight activities of the office since the last meeting on January the 20th. This certainly, as it relates to another agenda item today, just wanted to note how topical and how much we value and appreciate our City Climate Change Commission with the most recent 6th assessment report, synthesis report coming out, right? A reminder of the urgency, the unequivocal nature of greenhouse gas emissions causing climate change, and you all being prepared and positioned to swiftly support us in understanding the local impacts of what this science is telling us. So greatly appreciate that and look forward to that agenda item following this one. Just on a couple highlights regarding policies and projects. Hopefully you're all aware that just this month, City Council passed out Bills 41 and 42 from 2022, and Mayor signed them into law as ordinances 23-3 and 23-4. This updates chapters 26 and 25 of city ordinances. That's the shoreline setback chapter and the special management area chapter. And though not all of you were on the commission at those times, this work goes back a long way and was informed by the Commission's Seal of Rise guidance document, the first one, and a little bit as we caught up with the second guidance document. But there also was a specific shoreline setbacks guidance document. And we appreciate helping to bridge the science with community awareness. And we're very excited that these have been enacted as ordinance and also follow up and validate the community contributions of the resilience strategy, because updating these two chapters was action 29 of that. Also currently moving through City Council, and this commission is discussing it today as well. Bill 4 of 2023 is to update the city's building energy conservation code. And we again greatly appreciate the guidance and the expertise and really the community engagement and stakeholder engagement that was carried out by previous Commissioner Maynard and Vice Chair Keener in support of what ultimately became the reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings guidance, which Commissioner Islam additionally supported as she came on board. And again, back to how much we greatly value the expertise of the commission. I have some colleagues from the Department of Design and Construction who are also participating in today's meeting. Just for your awareness, we've launched and we're quite progressed in a project to create climate change design guidelines. So this is actually Resilience Action 14 from the city's resilience strategy. And this is to think about city projects, public works, the kinds of investments in infrastructure that we do, and how do we start incorporating what climate change is telling us in terms of the different parameters for design. So it's very timely, again, the update of the climate change brief and incorporating the latest science into that, really critical project. And then lastly, tomorrow is April already, believe it or not. And for us, what that means is we will be finalizing and sharing out the city's annual sustainability report. It's very exciting. We're going a different tactic this year, a much more live interactive format, more of a dashboard online so that people can really start to dive into the data. I know in her day job, Commissioner Atsuka works at the State Energy Office, and they have a tremendously improved data visualization platform for a whole variety of metrics and measures. And we're excited to bring the city's annual sustainability report more into that fashion. And really for us now, this will be the fifth report from our office. And we're now at a point where we can learn from the trends, right? A lot of the baseline data over the past couple of years is collecting it, but now a couple of years in, we can start to better analyze and scrutinize and see where the trends are going in the right direction or the wrong direction. So with that, we can course correct and share out that strategy moving forward. And then very quickly, just wanted to highlight, I'm sure you're all familiar with the whole flurry and overwhelming nature of federal grants at this moment and opportunities, right, to bring resources to bear for our local community. Just highlighting that we are actively working on an EPA climate pollution reduction grant program. So this is a tremendous opportunity for the city because we're directly eligible, but we gotta still be in it to win it. And this will really support us to update our next climate action plan and to incorporate some of the components that people felt maybe were shortcomings of the previous plan, as well as enhance community engagement and really start to think about the kinds of projects that could be further supported by phase 2 implementation grants. And those that go through these phase 1 planning grants then become eligible for this pot of money for phase 2 implementation. We're also working on a very unique grant program, and it's really challenging and strengthening some of our community relations because it obligates working with community-based organizations to prepare the grant. The title of it is called Environmental Justice, Government to Government. TBD if we're successful, but it's really advanced pushing the city, even thinking about how we can pursue grants and then how we can directly work with community-based partners moving forward. And then just lastly, you may be familiar that we had a Food Waste Management and Composting Award from the USDA, working with some Chinatown businesses. We're pleased that it looks like we will be awarded a phase 2 grant to work with schools on the windward side to do a similar food waste management and composting project with a different set of partners. And then lastly, just to wrap it up, not to recap 2 months of community engagement, but to highlight some recent ones and things that are on deck moving forward. Internally, we also do engagement with our city colleagues, and we recently hosted a climate change city action and it's not quite a training in the same way that you could get sort of professional development in how to best use Excel or some kind of other managerial training, but it's a really great opportunity to further connect with our colleagues, right? There's something on the order of, more than 9,000 city employees. That's a lot of people that are also residents that can benefit from education and awareness and how it relates to them as individuals on island. And then this afternoon, in partnership with UH-DERP, 2 of our team members, Haley Campbell and Emily McKinney, will be participating in a climate adaptation, equity, and justice program, 3 to 5 p.m. Tomorrow, members of the energy program team will be out at Me'ili Learning Center to further talk about a Solarize Waianae program. And this is a community-based, community-led concept in partnership with the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, State Energy Office, Hawaiian Electric, Hawaii Energy, and a whole array of partners really trying to help advance energy sovereignty and getting cost benefits and savings right above people's heads. Next week, Wednesday, folks from the adaptation team will be speakers for the UH Institute for Sustainability and Resilience seminar series, giving a sneak peek on the Climate Ready Oahu adaptation strategy, but also highlighting the process for some of the inputs as we continue to really scrutinize our engagement to make sure we're stepping up and doing the best practices as well. And then lastly, if you haven't heard, we are 2 weeks into a 10-week series of 11 community town halls. Just last night, Deputy Director Nicola Hedge was representing CCSR in Waipahu. There were 2 last week. There are 11 minus 3, there are 8 more over the next 8 weeks. And if you want to learn more about when and where, you can go to oneoahu.org/town hall. And then for us, the best way to stay informed, absent these interim updates, is to follow us at Resilient Oahu across all of the social media platforms and sign up for our newsletter and policy alerts at resilientoahu.org/subscribe. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director Gonzer. As always, your team is just so, I'm always floored at the amazing work that you all do and the reach that you all have. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more. You had talked about kind of putting some of the information on a dashboard, trying something new. Can you talk a little bit about like when that will go out? I'm just interested, particularly because I teach classes and it would be great to be able to have my students engage with it.
Sure. We are required to report annually before the end of April. We typically use the opportunity of Earth Week, Earth Day as a moment to make a little bit of a splash. So we're anticipating both a news release and the dashboard going live on Friday, the 21st of April.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Maya, for putting in the chat those links so that those who are with us can note how to join in on the town halls. Okay, Commissioner Otsuka.
Hi, I just also wanted to commend the work your office is doing, Matt. I think it's really important that everybody, but I think government agencies in particular, are looking at their outreach and evaluating what's working and what's not working. Who are we missing? Who we need to have a kind of greater lift in reaching. So I think it's really great that you folks are doing that. I also wanted to extend the offer to meet with our new data scientists at the Hawaii Energy Office, who helps to manage our dashboard. So our dashboard's also relatively new, sort of launched a few months ago, but happy to put you in touch if that's of interest to your office. Thank you.
Yeah, greatly appreciate that. If you could just introduce us via email, that'd be great.
Mahalo. Commissioner Romine?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Matt, for that update and all the great work that continues to come out of your office, all the hard work. particularly wanted to commend the city for the passage of bills 41 and 42, the setback and special management area legislation. Those are real landmark bills. The setback bill in particular has been a long time coming, a decade or more, through various iterations and a long pause in that. So it's really great to see that finally get passed, and it comes from a lot of hard work, especially from folks in DPP and the Resilience Office. So just want to commend you all on that, and thank you for getting that through, and thank our mayor and our city council as well for getting those bill passed. Mahalo. Oh, I did have one other suggestion, and I'm sorry, I know this kind of goes back to a previous agenda item, but Matt, you have so many great updates and so much great work going on. And I was looking at the minutes from the last meeting, and I'm afraid we've gone a little too far in the direction of simplifying the minutes. It would be great to have a little bit more bulletized notes on the some of the details you shared, your updates within the minutes. I know we're trying to keep things simpler, so I don't want to shift fully back the other way. And I know you mentioned those other resources to keep track of the Resilience Office, but just wanted to put that request in. If we could have a little bit more detail in the minutes, so we could refer back to at least the topics that you covered, and the key ones in your updates. Thank you.
No, appreciate the interest and the opportunity to further just continue to share the message and the progress. So, we can discuss that. Full disclosure, I'm usually reading from some prep notes that I've prepared anyway, so could be an easy transition.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Commissioner Keener, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
No comments. Great job as always at the office.
Commissioner Otsuka, did you have any follow-up questions? I just noted your hand was up. Oh, okay. And then at this time, I just wanted to open it up. If anyone from the public had any comments or questions to Director Gonzer regarding the activities that he just reported on, please feel free to raise your Zoom hand or type your questions in the chat. Okay. At this time, we are going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is discussion and action on updates to the Commission's climate change brief, which we originally adopted in 2018. And so it is time for us to update it. It's been 5 years and we have so much information that we've learned about our planet and about Hawaii more specifically. So at this time, I'd like to start off by turning over the floor. I believe this item is kind of been shepherded by Commissioner Romine and Commissioner Keener. And I think Commissioner Romine, you said you wanted to start off, possibly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have about a 15-minute overview presentation I'd like to give, and then we can get into some discussion and even editing on the document as needed afterwards. So give me a moment while I queue up my PowerPoint here. Make sure I get the correct screen on here. 1 second.
While Brad is getting everything set up, I'll just note that although this is an update of the climate change brief, and it's supposed to be brief, it did grow quite a bit, and it's a bit of a beast now. However, with all of the additional kind of local observations and projections that we put in, each section on its own is very brief. Just the entire thing is a bit longer now.
Yeah, thank you for that, Commissioner Keener. Yeah, it has brief has become a bit of a misnomer, but we hope you'll still find each of those topical sections to be good summary information. We have stuck with that kind of bulletized format from the original 2018 brief as well. So again, thank you for this time, this opportunity. I'd like to start with a short overview of the updated 2023 climate change brief and some of the key findings before we get into discussion on the document. Hopefully you're seeing my presentation screen at the moment. Is that correct? And that's fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
looks good.
Okay, thank you. So a quick reminder about Honolulu Climate Change Commission, what we're charged with. We started with gathering the latest science and information on climate change impacts to Hawaii, with a particular focus on Oahu. we're charged with advising the Resilience Office, the Mayor, City Council, and the other executive departments of the city as they look to draft policy and engage in planning for future climate scenarios. So we really have an advisory role only, not any specific decision-making with this commission as far as policy. So start with the purpose of this climate change brief update. This again, as was mentioned, this is an update to the 2018 summary of the best available science on climate change and related impacts. It's intended to provide a scientific basis for city planning and decision-making, as well as a foundation for further guidance and recommendations from the commission. We also want this to be a community resource for understanding the types and timing of climate change impacts and responses to our island. This brief is not intended to provide detailed guidance and recommendations. As you may know, the folks here, the commission also provides topically focused guidance documents that include more detailed recommendations. However, this updated version does include a section with progress and next steps to highlight recent and ongoing efforts to address climate change impacts, to highlight some of the important progress that we are making. This update to the 2018 climate change brief was motivated in part by the release of updated international and national scientific reports on climate change, including but not limited to a series of special reports from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. It came out in 2018 to 2019, as well as the most recent IPCC 6 assessment reports, or AR6. That includes the 3 working group reports, and then the recently released synthesis report that summarizes the findings of those 3 working groups that was released in March 2023. And we also look to the 5th U.S. National Climate Assessment, or NCA 5, which is in prep. I believe it's still out for public review at this time, or has been recently. This presentation will give particular attention to key findings from the recent released IPCC AR6 synthesis report, which again summarizes those 3 key IPCC reports over the last few years. And you'll see the reference to those IPCC reports bolded in the upcoming slides. I want to pause to give a big mahalo to all of those long list of folks that provided reviews and input to this document, which significantly improved the content and breadth of the brief. I'm not going to take the time to name them all, but we really appreciated everyone's time and input on that. And again, thank you, Commissioner Keener, for serving as co-lead in developing the updated brief here. But ultimately, the content of this paper rests solely with the Honolulu Climate Change Commission. The brief has been organized into 10 topical sections on a range of climate change indicators and impacts. These include energy and greenhouse gases, atmosphere and ocean warming, precipitation and stream flow, sea level rise and coastal impacts, extreme weather, food systems, human health, disproportionately impacted communities, terrestrial and marine ecosystems, and areas for future research. There's also 2 appendices on El Nino and La Nina effects on our climate and changes in the global cryosphere. With this version, we're also giving particular attention to local observations and projected impacts for Oahu, putting those up front in each topical section. And this is followed by global observations and impacts. And we also highlight some of the important progress and next steps that we're making to address the risks and impacts of climate change. The IPCC AR6 synthesis report has 2 particularly stark statements based on a broad consensus of the state of the science on climate change that serve as an urgent call to action for us all, I think. They state that climate change is a threat to human well-being and planetary health. There's a rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. The choices and actions implemented in this decade will have impacts now and for thousands of years. From here, I'd like to provide a few key findings in each of the climate change brief's topical sections, starting with energy and greenhouse gases. Again, key findings from the IPCC 6th assessment report are in bold. References for the other key findings may be found within the topical sections of the brief. Global atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations are now at least 420 parts per million, and are higher than at any time in at least past 2 million years. It's important to note that approximately 80% of Hawaii's greenhouse gas emissions come from Oahu. So this island has a particular responsibility in reducing the state's greenhouse gas emissions overall. But there is some important progress to note on that. Oahu's greenhouse gas emissions have declined by about 18% from 2005 to 2018, which I believe is the most recent data available on our island's emissions. Human activities, principally through emissions of greenhouse gases, have unequivocally caused global warming, with global surface air temperatures reaching 1.1 degrees C, or about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, above baseline from 1815 to 1900. We're now on track for global warming of about 3.2 degrees C or 5.8 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100 if we do not strengthen policies and global commitments to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and warming. Average air temperature in Hawaii has risen by about 1.1 degrees C or 2 degrees Fahrenheit since 1950, indicating that Hawaii is somewhat outpacing even global averages for warming. Globally, human influence has likely increased the frequency of concurrent heat waves and droughts. We find that rainfall and stream flow have declined in Hawaii over the past century. However, predictive models for Hawaii do not agree on total rainfall nor extreme rainfall occurrence late in this century, which is an area of important ongoing research. I'm not going to go too much into detail on sea level rise and coastal impacts, though there is a section on that in the brief. The City Climate Change Commission, as was also earlier mentioned, provided updated guidance on sea level rise in July 2022. Also want to refer folks to a report resource that was recently released from the 2022 State of Hawaii Sea Level Rise Vulnerability and Adaptation Report from the State Climate Commission, which also provides a detailed assessment of progress in preparing the state and counties for sea level rise. Human-caused climate change is already affecting weather and climate extremes in every region across the globe. Historical extreme rainfall trends across Hawaii vary with the definition of extreme and time periods of reference. Drought frequency, duration, and magnitude have increased statewide in both the wet and dry seasons. More frequent tropical cyclones are projected near Hawaii. This is due to northerly shifting storm tracks, but models on this are somewhat uncertain. Globally, climate change has reduced food and water security, hindering efforts to meet international UN Sustainable Development Goals. Here in Hawaii, the majority of our food, or 85 or 90%, is imported, leaving food supply chains vulnerable to climate-related disasters. As of March 2021, 48% of Hawaii's families reported experiencing food insecurity. Resilience Office hired a food security and sustainability program manager, Dexter Kishida, in 2020 to work on these issues. In all regions, globally, increases in extreme heat events have resulted in human mortality and morbidity. The occurrence of climate-related foodborne and waterborne diseases and the incidence of vector-borne diseases have increased globally as well. In 2021, the city passed the halfway point towards its goal of planting 100,000 trees, in part to reduce the impacts of urban heat. The city also has a FEMA grant to begin developing a network of community resilience hubs for services in case of disaster, access to health services, public cooling centers during heat emergencies, and more. The loss of ecosystems and their services has a cascading and long-term impact on people globally, especially for Indigenous peoples and local communities. Prioritizing equity, climate justice, social justice, inclusion, and just transition processes can enable adaptation, ambitious mitigation actions, and climate resilient development. Low-income households and individuals tend to lack the resources needed to respond and recover from hazard events. In 2020, 33% of Hawaii's households were classified as asset limited, income constrained, though employed. Globally, climate change has caused substantial damages and increasingly irreversible losses in terrestrial, freshwater, paraspheric, and coastal and open ocean ecosystems. Invasive species and climate change are having interactive and compounding impacts on Hawaii's terrestrial and marine ecosystems. Management of marine and terrestrial ecosystems generally falls under state and federal jurisdictions. However, the challenges we're facing in Oahu's watersheds and coastal ecosystems are inextricably linked to land use practices within city jurisdictions. Lastly, some of the areas identified for future research include projections of ongoing work on projections of future rainfall and flooding impacts, as well as drought, ongoing work on next generation modeling of sea level rise impacts, looking in more detail at impacts of climate change on local food systems, human health, and our communities, as well as continued monitoring of physical and socioeconomic climate change data. So I'll end there, and I don't know if we want to take some time for questions on that or just move to the document and address questions through that.
Let's move to the document. I do know that there is a few comments in the chat, but we can take them once we finish our kind of substantive draft changes.
Okay, sounds good.
Is everyone seeing the right screen? So I started sharing the draft.
Yes.
Okay. Is that big enough for people to see?
I would say the bigger you can make it, the better.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
That looks great. Thank you, Vicki.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to do the super fun part where we live edit. And just for everybody on the call's reference, this draft brief was attached to the agenda, and this is where we go through and talk about any substantive edits as well as non-substantive edits that need to be made in order to take action on this document today. So if there are substantive edits that we can include and make the edits today in the document, we can take action if we're in agreement. But if we can't, then we'd have to delay to a future time. And if there are non-substantive edits, moving things, adding citations, grammar, spelling, things like that, those are things we will fix in after taking action, and we'll still be able to vote on it today. So with that, why don't we go ahead, and Brad, thanks so much for leading that PowerPoint and including the AR6 synthesis findings. And now let's open it up to commissioners for comments on the actual document.
Victoria, I'd be glad to kind of help facilitate the discussion if you want to focus on the live edit. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
This is Rosie here. I just want to say I don't have any substantive comments. I'll just probably go through and send you any, like if I find any kahako or akina, but I did want to note that I really appreciate the refocus to local climate changes, because in the previous observations in the previous iteration of this brief, there really was a much more global and rightly so significant, but I think if we are to take action and if our lawmakers are to utilize this brief as they are intended to, it's so important that we foreground what is happening here in Hawaii and maybe even closer here on Oahu. So I really appreciate the attention to really pulling out those details.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Rosie. And I'll note also that, Brad and I, as well as all of the reviewers that spent their time adding to the brief and providing comments, we ended up with almost, I think, like 400 citations or so in the end. So it was quite a bit of literature review.
And we've put those citations intentionally at the bottom of each page and footnotes. I hope that helps folks with further reading and moving to those reference if you want more detail on our summary bullets. Other comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, Commissioner Otsuka, do you have any comments?
Just that I'm appreciative that you folks included the extreme change in climate and its impacts on our transportation infrastructure, as well as people. So that includes information about evacuation routes and timing, inundated roadways, things of that nature. So I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kiana. And thank you also for providing some edits ahead of time on the disproportionately impacted community section, which I've integrated into this draft as well.
I'll just quickly note, I had added some verbiage in there so it's consistent with the Commission's Climate Equity Pledge. That was the primary change.
Thank you for those additions. That's great.
Okay, my sense is that we have that the commission has put in any substantive changes that or edits and feedback. And so I want to open it up at this time to the public to see if there are any additional comments about the brief. And I want to remind you that unlike the reason why we call it a brief is that, and not a guidance document, is that there are no recommendations. This document is meant to serve as a reference for our local lawmakers if they are looking for the updated data on climate. So that's why there are no recommendations in this document. Director Gonzer.
Thank you. Yeah, echo some of the sentiments on sort of the formatting and the depth and the expansiveness. And to comfort Commissioner Romine, yes, the sections are brief, so they're very approachable when you're looking for a subject. I don't have substantive comments on the science, but on several of the local progress kind of sections, I have a couple of recommendations here. If we could start on page 7. Line 31. Just a note that the climate action plan was adopted, or sorry, it's required by ordinance 20-47. There was a different adoption via resolution, which we can come to at a later section. And then page 17, line 9 and 10. Mayor, I would call it enacted bills 41 and 42 as ordinance 23-3 and 23-4 respectively in March of 2023. And then in the line below that the ordinances have been rearranged, so it's actually now chapter 26, not chapter 23. And then page 17.
Sorry, Matt, does this special management area ordinance remain chapter 25?
It is, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Page 17.
I think we're still on page 17.
Oh, sorry. Line 17 then. Oh, now it's line 18. So the city bill sentence, I would start it a version of Bill 10, 2022. And you can strike not passed because bills they're in process just by nature.
Should we put in process or?
No, I think it's understood that once a bill is a law, it's an ordinance. If it's a bill, it's underway. Included provisions of TDR, and I would say later on, oh, I lost it. I think that's fine for now, but for the group's awareness, the current CD1 does not include those provisions, but it certainly started the conversation about how TDR could be a component of the land use ordinance. And then in the next section, line 22, I
The next
recommend,
section.
sorry, line 22.
Okay.
I recommend striking beyond Waikiki. The city can develop special improvement districts. The city already does have special improvement districts outside of Waikiki. This new state legislation allows the counties to now use special improvement districts for more than just business and economic purposes. So even though there is a beach special improvement district in Waikiki, the hook in the previous enabling authority was really because it's about economics and the beach value for tourism in Waikiki.
Brad, are you all right with that one?
Yeah, go ahead and strike on Waikiki, please. Yeah.
And then just two more on page 27. I don't have a full insight because I didn't do a full scan, but just for the commission's interest for consistency, there weren't too many direct inline hyperlinks in previous sections. So maybe just something to look at of a hyperlink versus the footnote that then has the link in those two sections. So maybe not something for live right now, but could be a non-substantive formatting.
I'll just make a comment. Do we want to talk about, just decide now if we'd rather do inline hyperlinks or footnotes to websites in this document?
I imagine the hyperlinks would be real useful to folks. I'm just not sure where the cutoff is for that, you know, where and how many of those to add.
So my recommendation would be that we don't include hyperlinks to journal articles like DOIs, but we do include hyperlinks to websites. And I think you're right that people would find it much easier to click on a link embedded in the document rather than go to the footnote and paste it in.
That sounds good. We can add those where appropriate, as you suggested.
And then just one final comment, commissioners, on page 32.
All right.
Line 20, the city's climate action plan adopted in 2021.
Oops.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt, for those updates and corrections. Much appreciated.
That was great. And now we, is it okay if we move to taking comments and feedback and questions from the public? Okay, so opening that up, I'm noting in the chat that Matt wanted to ask if this document is going to be available as a hard copy, not an electronic document. It is my understanding that we do post everything on our website and they can be printed out. And in that way, members of the public can sit with it and read it. So maybe not directly to Commissioner Romine and Commissioner Keener. Director Gonzer, can you make comment on materials that this commission and OCCSR produces?
Yes, that's a great question and not something that I'm sure we've had a past practice of in terms of where would be the most appropriate sort of city repository. We do officially transmit documents to City Council, the administration, as hard copies. I might be overstating, but I think we do potentially transmit to the city's municipal reference center. But it's not something that we currently have a practice to have a place where people can come and read and review and or pick up guidance documents. I have a very big 3-inch binder because the commission has been so prolific over the past couple of years myself. And that's a non-answer for the participant JMAT right now, but something that we will make sure to take into consideration and perhaps report back out at a next meeting.
I can just give my thoughts on that as well. And that is a good comment to bring up, just because the climate brief does differ from our other guidance documents, which are by nature, more technical and more specifically targeted towards the city departments and CCSR, rather than the climate brief, which is a little more outward facing. So I would say that there's actually, in the case of the climate brief, there could be an argument made that producing some sort of public facing hard copy communication or document from this could be beneficial. And I know there's a lot of concern about resources and stuff as well, but if there is one thing that we produce that is more appropriate to be available in hard copy for the public, I would say it might be this one.
Commissioner Otsuka?
Yeah, I wanted to maybe suggest not a compromise necessarily, but an idea of how we could do that without printing one copy for every resident on Oahu. Something we considered at my previous job is putting copies of our plans in public libraries. So that might be a thought on how we can get physical copies out to the public without printing the million or so for every resident.
That's a great idea. Director Gonzer, maybe we can discuss offline the feasibility around that.
Sure. Thank you for the recommendations. And great question from the community member.
I also wanted to note Henry Curtis had a comment that said he believes the city does not track trees chopped down in urban areas. Thus, tree planted may be a misleading metric. Henry, if you wanted to comment on, I'm not clear on where in the document this may be applying to, but I'm happy to have you come off of mute and clarify for us what you mean.
It was only in reference to the statement made by Gonzer that that the city is halfway towards its 100,000 tree goal, and my reference is that is a gross figure and not a net figure.
Got it.
Mr. Curtis is correct in that assessment, although on the city side specifically, we do track removal of city, street, and park trees because that's part of asset management for the Department of Parks and Recreation, but it's not inherently reflected in that goal, which is more of a community-wide campaign for planting. So we wouldn't really have the mechanisms to track individual tree removals from private properties, but certainly we're trying to improve our asset management within our Division of Urban Forestry.
So there are a couple places in the document in both human health and terrestrial ecosystems where we do reference the city's tree planting 100,000 tree goal. Is there a way, Henry, that you would suggest that we clarify those statements or wording that you would want to see in there, or is that more of just a note?
That's more a note. It's something that Lifeland has been interested in, but doesn't really have access to the relevant information. So it's just something to be aware of at this time.
All right, thank you, Henry.
Director Gonzer?
Yeah, and just a final note on that. There's numbers of trees and the benefits that individual trees can provide. There's also the benefit of canopy, and those are different metrics and measures. And though we have some dated island-wide tree canopy data, there was a recent resource provided by the state DLNR Urban and Community Forestry Program, but we're also looking at updating the island of Oahu's urban tree canopy in the coming year or two with some updated data that we're collecting from NOAA. So we recognize that there's pros and cons to looking at either of those two metrics, and not really consistent or great ways to measure them with high fidelity.
Great. Commissioner Otsuka.
I just wanted to follow up on Henry's note to ask, and I know that maybe this is not the place to do it because this is not necessarily a recommendation document, but do we want to consider adding in some document, and if it's this one, great. If not, I can write this down for future reference, that we as in our city and county of Honolulu somewhere is documenting non-city managed tree removal, and for us to get a better idea of what the net tree canopy or net number of trees are.
That if folks agree, that could go just a bullet on that in areas for future research, including mentioning.
Oh yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
All right. See.
Because at the moment, and maybe Matt, you might know the answer to this question. If someone removes a tree, they don't have to apply for a city permit or anything, or is there any sort of
That's not
document?
correct. That's not correct in all districts. So
Okay.
there are several special design districts around the island, like Punchbowl, Capitol, Waikiki, and elsewhere. And they have more stringent tree preservation requirements depending on the size and the caliber of an existing tree. So there's a little bit more nuance, but it's not a free-for-all in a lot of places.
Brad and Kiana, I am in the future research and project needs section. If you have wording, Kiana, you made some good points there. I will transcribe if you suggest.
Would you like to take a crack at that, Kiana, or would you like me to?
Oh, you can try, and I'll add. I'm like, oh, the live editing, it's so intimidating.
Okay, I'll take a first crack at it. I think we can keep it fairly straightforward and simple. I think it's really about improve monitoring of tree planting and removal on private lands, or improved assessment of greenhouse gas mitigation and tree canopy changes, something along those lines.
Improved assessment of greenhouse gas emissions.
Emissions mitigation.
And mitigation.
Yeah. Okay, I see Commissioner Otsuka's note. I guess that sounds okay. I don't know if Henry or other folks have comments on that.
This looks good to me.
Do you want to, or do we want to add more direct language related to Henry's comment about trying to get a better understanding of the sort of net number of trees that are in City and County of Honolulu, to kind of understand the sentiment of this suggestion a little bit better? Or do we feel that's sufficient?
Sure, we could add to that a little bit to improve understanding of net changes.
I like that change. Open to others' thoughts.
To improve understanding of net change in tree
Density canopy or something
Yeah.
like that, tree numbers.
Or
and
number of
canopy.
trees, tree
Yeah.
canopy.
And we don't need to add this, but I just was thinking, this doesn't need to be, a lot of this could be done with remote sensing data, I think, especially for tree canopy GIS work. If it doesn't go as far as reporting exact numbers on tree removals from private property, which sounds like it may be difficult. see a comment from Walter Billingsley on this as well. The vegetative biomass is perhaps more important than just the number of trees.
But tree planting.
Thank you, Walter.
I'm not a vegetative biomass expert here. Does anybody know if that's an appropriate inclusion?
I mean, I think that's fine. You can say that, yeah, that's fine.
I think the only concern I have with that addition is, and I think I'm okay to leave it. I'm just wondering how to do that inventory. I'm less familiar with vegetative biomass inventory and more familiar with tree inventory via the Ka'ulunani Citizen Forestry Program.
Walter, would you like to add anything? Unmute yourself if possible. Or add a follow-up in the chat on what quantifying vegetative biomass would include in terms of a method.
And this can be part of the research also, so I'm happy to include it in there. Doesn't necessarily need to be super exact because this is our sort of recommendations for further research. Is that right, Commissioner Keener?
Yep. And it is, and I mean, what I'm familiar with in terms of quantifying biomass is like harvesting and drying and weighing, and obviously I don't think that's what we're referring to here.
Yeah, I mean, I think by using broader language of vegetative versus tree, I think where Walter was going was like, yeah, the more than plants, hedges, which may or may not contribute to canopy, but so, yeah.
Okay, we're still in the public comment phase, right? Any other comments from public attendees in the chat, or if you'd raise your hand, right?
No other comments relating to the content. JMAT did suggest additional ways to disseminate the information, and yeah, I think that also obviously we have an active social media platform, and so this is another ways that we could create highlights of the social media posts about the climate brief, breaking it down, adding highlights. That might be another really straightforward way, and suggesting people can pick it up at their public library or download it and print it out. Okay, so let's finish up. If there is any other, I guess I would like to ask Maya, is there any comments on Facebook Live regarding the content, any substantive comments or feedbacks on the climate change brief? None. Okay, seeing none, I would like to ask if there's a motion to adopt the minutes of the climate change brief.
Chair,
Adopt the updated climate brief.
Yes, the updated climate brief. Yeah, I mean, so with the understanding that I would count, changing some of the links, some of the footnotes to being live links. Those are non-substantive changes. But yeah, to adopt the current version that we are looking at right now, version of the climate change brief. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I'll motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, so we're gonna take a vote please, by show of hands, how many of you support or with an I?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Please let us note that we have all 4 commissioners present voting for aye. There are no nays, and Commissioner Melanie is out today. Melanie is out. Melanie is out today. And so the yay, the brief passes. So this is great. We will. Good job. And again, I want to just commend Commissioner Romine and Commissioner Keener for really taking that up and doing the heavy lift. It hadn't been updated in 5 years, and so much has changed in that time. So thank you very, very much for all of the work that you put into that.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I just want to say again, thank you to everyone that spent time to review the document and provide input. It greatly helped improve the breadth and the depth of the document. So thank you for those that did that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all of our expert reviewers who looked it over. So at this time, we're going to move to agenda item 6, which is discussion on a process to complete an in-development urban heat guidance document. And that was being carried on, that work was being really shepherded by Commissioner Otsuka as well as Melody. Tiana, are you able to kind of update us on what the latest is on your discussion process?
Yeah, and apologies, I missed the last meeting, so I'm not sure how much Melanie has already shared with you with regard to where we are in reviewing this guidance document. So where this document is it's been sort of shepherded initially by previous commissioners, Dr. Kaufman and Dr. Fletcher. And so now Melanie and I are sort of handling the stakeholder engagement with regard to this draft that was put together. So this last month or so, Melanie and I want to shout out our Climate Ready Vista, Karen Yale, has been helping a lot with this also, putting together a stakeholder list. So looking at both governmental and non-governmental organizations who are involved in heat planning, architecture, things of that nature. And then Melanie and I are also coming up with some questions to ask the stakeholders. So we have a draft going. And then the other big update we'll provide you is we put together a draft timeline, subject to change. But what it's sort of looking like right now is sort of in April or tomorrow, I guess, sort of end of April, early May. We're looking to finalize that stakeholder list, invite stakeholders to participate in our stakeholder process, and we'll prepare a short slide deck on what's the content of the current guidance document. We'll hope to finish or hope to sort of conduct actual engagement in mid-May to May-June. We are thinking about doing some workshops either in person and or virtually. We're thinking 2. And then we'll sort of finish engagement and we'll review the comments from stakeholders in mid-June to early July. And then we hope to finalize in August and then present to you folks the final document in the fall. Sometimes we're thinking maybe September, at the latest October. So that's kind of the updates. We're just really kind of finalizing the stakeholder list and draft questions at the moment, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Otsuka. Very much appreciate taking up the burden of tasks that were set forth started earlier, and I like the timeline that you've put together. And I'm interested in seeing what your list of questions are. So I kind of was going to suggest that perhaps that could be something to bring, if we agendize this process, maybe that's something that we can review as a commission, the list of questions that you're going to go over with the stake and rights holders. That would be my one
great suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Keener?
Thanks, Kiana. That sounds like a great process, kind of in line with what we've been doing, which is great. And I just wanted to bring up in relationship to the heat document, I wanted to put an emphasis on the National Integrated Heat Health Information System, which is just heat.gov, but it's already listed as a resource in the document, in the guidance document. But what I wanted to bring up specifically that I think is is relevant to this commission is that as part of the White House's Justice 40 initiative, the NIHHIS is one of the initiatives that is being included in the Justice 40 documentation. And for those who are unfamiliar with Justice 40, it's a federal White House initiative that looks at trying to quantify that at least 40% of federal resources are flowing to communities that are being defined as socioeconomically disadvantaged or vulnerable. And so the urban heat guidance, I think, should have that, have a similar emphasis on, making sure that we include disproportionately impacted communities and vulnerable communities as an emphasis point in the document and in the stakeholder list.
Chair, can I respond to that?
Please, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your suggestion. I just wanted to bring to your folks' attention some sort of internal conversations that Melanie and I have had along with Kara on this topic. One, we were talking about whether we should invite federal stakeholders such as those from the institute that you had put in the chat. And I don't think we landed on a final answer. So if you folks have input on that, I would be happy to take that to Melanie. And then second, Melanie, Kara, and I also discussed the equity piece. So we're aiming to involve community health centers across the island, particularly in those communities that are on the Hawaii Health Equity Index. I'll put the link in the chat, but essentially identifies communities at high risk of health disparities. So we thought that was a good place to start. And it overlaps quite a bit with ALICE communities too, which I know OCCSR uses quite frequently also. So that's sort of our plan to incorporate equity and communities at higher risk of experiencing extreme heat and the impacts of that.
Great. I just, for my clarification, when you said community health centers, are you talking about FQHCs, federally qualified healthcare centers?
Oh, that I'm not sure, Rosie. I'll have to check. But the list we have going so far, for example, includes the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. I think we're looking into some health centers in kind of the Avokapole area, looking for sort of health centers in Wahiawa, Palolo, and I can pull up the list too. But I'll double check about the federally qualified health centers.
Okay.
Do you have a preference, Rosie, or?
No, I think that those have been designated as serving the communities that I think would qualify under this White House Justice 40. So not saying you should go away from the groups that you've already identified, but maybe see if any of the FQHCs might overlap with the areas that you've identified with. Okay. So Commissioner Romine, do you have any comments about the process that Commissioner Otsuka has laid out?
No comments, just thank you for that update.
Great. At this time, I want to open it up for comments or feedback from the public. And I see that Henry, you've put something in the chat. Do you want to come off of mute and just say it for the record?
Yeah, the rise in high rises in Kaka'ako and downtown creates the danger of urban heat islands. And that has an immediate health impact as documented in the heat document. What isn't examined is whether that heat island affects the weather patterns in the local area and the regional area. I know when irrigation stopped for the sugar industry, and therefore the amount of water being added and evaporated changed the rain patterns on the North Shore. similarly, a heat island can create hot and cooler zones that can affect weather patterns, wind patterns. So I was wondering if that was looked at, or whether it should be looked at, or whether it's a future document idea or whatever.
Henry, I'll have to double check, but I have a copy and pasted your comment in the chat to review. But would certainly, I think the urban heat impact document is on the commission or the OCCSR website. So if you also want to have a read through and let me or the commission know if you feel it's missing something, I'd be really appreciative.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Are there any other comments on the process and or the current draft, which was posted as part of the materials? I think the process is pretty good. None on Facebook. Thank you, Maya. And so I think we will just kind of, with that in mind, I think we'll look to getting an update perhaps in the coming months. So since you're going to put together a stakeholder list and then a list of questions, perhaps maybe in the May commission meeting, we can look to having a discussion on what those questions are, and we can kind of get some feedback on that. But I look forward to seeing how your community engagement sessions look. So we're going to move on to the next item, and the next item I will be addressing, it's discussion of an action on commission testimony for City Council Bill 4 relating to adoption of the State Energy Conservation Code. Actually, before I begin, I kind of, sorry for the throwing you, hope you don't feel like I threw you under the bus, Director Gonzer. I was wondering if you could give us a short summary of City Council Bill 4 before I show the draft testimony for everybody.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I love the bus, so no worries. I'll get on. Bill 4 is to update the city's Building Energy Conservation Code by adopting the State Energy Code 2018, which is the IECC, International Energy Conservation Code 2018, with state amendments. So there's a process that we can then take another look in what's appropriate for our local context and what's unique across the 4 counties to see what's reasonable for additional amendments at the local level. So that's the process that is underway. It has already had a first city council reading. It had a first committee reading where they adopted a CD1 but didn't pass it out. So this meeting next week, Wednesday, is to evaluate a new CD1 and potentially for action. There were several main categories that we, the administration in partnership with the Department of Planning and Permitting and the stakeholders, we initiated an engagement process almost a year ago at this point with several dozen one-on-one meetings with designers, developers, other equity and energy-minded folks to think about what might be possible to additionally support reducing emissions, reducing costs for people, and now a more novel challenge that you all were just discussing: how do we better manage and mitigate the increasing risk of heat for people in buildings? So those are some of the big categories that we worked on, and the amendments are best couched in 3 themes. One was stretching our savings, and there's one proposal which is a completely voluntary commercial stretch code to start to incent the market to be more innovative and think about ways that new buildings can be more grid interactive. We understand that's really the direction that the utility is going, and that frankly we all need to think about energy as a resource across the whole of community. And again, that's a voluntary commercial stretch code. And what the hope is, getting that on the books, we could then take the next steps to provide incentives that might motivate someone to go above and beyond the base code in that situation. The other element in the stretching savings was looking at a very small segment of single family homes and finding ways to stoke further market innovation, specifically looking at large homes. So single family homes, currently as drafted, single family homes 4,000 square feet and above, to require some additional design above and beyond the base code, looking at different grid interactive features, looking at other efficiency measures. And then if that structure itself includes 2,000 square feet or more of conditioned space, requiring an energy model to better inform the design. Energy modeling is very common practice for larger buildings. Commercial buildings by code are several stories and above. They all go through a process of energy modeling because they want to ensure the best performance and the best efficiency for building occupants. It's not so common for single family residential structures. So the approach and the intent is to work with a small segment of new construction on an annual basis, single family homes, 4,000 square feet and above, and require some additional performance. The other category is looking at heat risks, and this includes higher solar reflectance for roofs and walls, and looking at ways to mitigate heat transfer through building walls. And this is an area called mass walls. The current code allows for exemption from a requirement of insulation in mass walls if you then follow 1, 2, or 3 options. The first one primarily being creating shade so that the solar reflectance doesn't actually hit the mass wall, which could then heat up and transfer heat internally to the structure. The second option that you can use as an exception from insulation is just a higher solar reflectance, so a lighter paint in essence, to ensure that the solar radiation doesn't penetrate the structure. And a third one that we're still working with the masonry industry to better understand and make sure it one, provides the performance but doesn't preclude certain design options, is looking at certain aspects of a natural masonry surface. And then the last sort of big theme of categories are ways to improve design options that don't lose on efficiency. So there's a couple of amendments to address different ways to treat hot water circulation, different ways to manage insulation in floors that again allow us to take cost-cutting measures that could potentially impact the building of the structures, but they don't actually impact the energy efficiency and the performance of the structure. So absent the opportunity to go through an amendment process, we wouldn't find some of these win-win solutions. And then the very last thing is just to maintain certain components that are existing city law. The previous cycle to update to the 2015 code, at the local level, we had additional amendments for EV readiness in commercial buildings and PV and EV readiness for residential buildings. So this presents as an amendment, but it's really to carry forward what is existing law because it's not a component of the state's energy code.
Thank you. That was really comprehensive and helpful for me. And then what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to ask the commissioners for feedback. If there is substantive feedback, then we'll share and do live editing. And I guess one thing I would have in mind is what I don't know is whether or not the testimony that was drafted primarily by Commissioner Islam takes into account the CD1, some of the amendments. I think it remains, as you were speaking, Director Gonzer, I was looking through the text of our testimony and I think it is still relevant and all of that good stuff, but I would ask the commissioners, having heard some of the updates to, oh no, it actually does talk about the stretch code, but it's not relating it in terms of it being CD1. It's just saying it's in the appendix. So yeah, I would just say, like, you know, small tweaks like that, please let me know. So
Oh, just to clarify, on that last note, as written, it's in the appendix of the code, but the
yes.
CD1 includes it. So at least in my read, it's represented correctly.
Okay. Great. I think, why don't you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and share screen. I think that would be easiest. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask us that we start with, perfect, thank you, Commissioner Otsuka. I think given your background expertise, you are perfect to start us off with commentary.
I just want to add a quick note, and I think maybe we can consider this in the future, because I haven't read anything or have seen anything kind of this nature, but it's certainly something we should consider in the future for a building code change. We're seeing a huge growth in e-mobility. So that's electric bikes, electric scooters, those one-wheel contraptions, things of that nature. And I think we should consider in the future providing charging facilities, not just for electric vehicles, but also for more active and shared forms of transportation, and where people can charge them. That will help with greater adoption. And then we'll hopefully see more mode shift and reduction in trips driven alone in a car, whether it be electric or not. So I don't have a whole lot to contribute because I haven't read anything about that recently. If others have thoughts on that, feel free to share, but I just wanted to add that note for everybody's awareness.
Thank you, Commissioner Otsuka. Commissioner Keener, you sent me a quick note that you'd like me to insert something. Oops, sorry.
Yep, I can just outline that for the public as well. I think it's worth inserting another sentence in the testimony about the reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings guidance document that the commission produced, as it is relevant to supporting Bill 4 and a lot of the recommendations we made kind of jive with it. So I've sent Rosie a suggested sentence there and a place for inserting it. Open to feedback on if there's a better way to put it somewhere.
Yeah, so I've inserted, in July of 2022, the Commission adopted a guidance document titled Reducing Greenhouse Gas Emissions from Buildings that supports Bill 4 and recommends best practices and outlines incentives and examples from other cities. I think that's good. Commissioner Keener, since we are on, you do have any other substantive changes that you'd like to make to this testimony?
No, I think that was it.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Thank you. Commissioner Romine, do you have any additions you would like to make to this testimony?
Thanks. Yeah, I guess it's more of a question. I need to educate myself on this topic, certainly more. But I don't see anything in here. Can we say anything about the long-term cost benefits to these improvements for, say, for the individual, for the developers, or I guess particularly for the landowners? Is there local, even national research on that we could cite in one bullet? I think, you know, that's where my mind first went. I imagine addition is the best benefits of greenhouse in gas emissions reductions and temperature concerns. I think that's where maybe some of the concerns, objections may come. If there is opposition to this, like, what is this? Housing is already incredibly expensive on this island and Hawaii wide. Is there a net benefit economically too that we can cite here as well to strengthen the argument for this? So I pose that as a question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am not aware of, off the top of my head, of any research that we could cite or bring into this document. That's not to say that there isn't any. So I invite the public as well as any commissioners to kind of help us to look to determine whether or not that is the case, and then perhaps we can craft some language in the meantime. Yes, Commissioner Otsuka.
I'm wondering what the deadline for this is, because I think that's maybe a great question for Commissioner Rosie. This is sort of her area of expertise. Does this need to be, do we need to take action today in order to meet a deadline to submit testimony?
I believe we do. Director Gonzer can correct me, but because it's going to be coming up in committee soon, we wanted to submit this testimony to that committee.
The agenda has been posted, so the next meeting is actually next week, Wednesday at 2:30 p.m.
Yeah. So our goal was to submit testimony, was to adopt this testimony as it is today, without, if there are some minor changes that can happen, but substantive content, and then so that we as the commission can get it in before the testimony deadline. So yeah, we can't wait until the next commission meeting, unfortunately. So Commissioner Romine, are you okay with us not putting that language into this testimony? Maybe sticking a pin in it and just kind of looking to the future for something?
I'm certainly okay with that, given the timeline moving ahead as it is, or has been suggested here. But yeah, just something to note for maybe future hearings, that something for us collectively to look more into.
Yeah, I think the place to put it would be somewhere around here, where it will not only reduce greenhouse gases, but maybe then we could add in a sentence on that. And so, yeah, certainly we can think about if there is that information available out there. Okay, any other major comments from the commission before I open it up to the public? I see that there are a couple of comments and questions, but maybe more to bill for. Yes, Director Gonzer.
Just to Commissioner Romine's comment, a lot of that sort of pre-cost, post-cost has influenced the proposal. There are other resources from the Pacific Northwest Lab as part of NREL and the Department of Energy that had evaluated the 2018 IECC and what that might mean for Hawaii. And as I mentioned, there was this making it fit approach. One of the categories was really thinking through, especially on what isn't required for some of the we made amendments for things that wouldn't lose on performance, that also could support cost savings in construction, but then didn't burden someone as an occupant on potential energy burden. And that really was the charge and the approach that we had from the stakeholder engagement and the direction from the administration generally. So certainly a lot of that has gone into inform the approach. There's obviously ongoing discussions, and that's always a really critical thing. Upfront costs versus the truth and reality that we've been providing several hundreds of millions of dollars in support of people's rental and utility relief. We know that utilities continues to be a real challenge, and this has allowed us to broaden the discussion of affordability for more of like affordable living, right? Like getting someone housed and then allowing them to stay in a place. So we appreciate the question on that as well.
Thank you. Okay, I have gotten an additional request to add a hyperlink to our to the reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings documents. I'm going to add that in now.
Thanks, Rosie. And I would just like to note, when I was trying to find that link to send to you just now, I'd like to note that on the Commission's guidance webpage, the social cost of carbon guidance document and the reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings document still look like they don't have memos generated that have been sent up to Mayor's office. Matt, can you?
Greenhouse gas has been done. I know that
let's put up those memos. Matt, can you comment?
I can confirm that both were transmitted, so we'll make sure to include the cover letters as a posting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say social cost of carbon wasn't during my watch. So I think that was from when McKenna was chair. So I yeah. Okay.
Has that one been passed up, Matt? Or yeah? Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
thanks.
All right, very good. So now I want to open it up to comments and feedback from the public. I do note that J Matt has asked, are there included in single family homes any options for compliance using trades, venturi ventilation, and air exchange in areas where this is practical? And Director Gonzer, I don't know if your response is to that, which is we have local compliance pathway using tropical code to benefit from trades using eaves, etc. Lots of details, but short answer is yes. I just wanted to read that into our live feed since so much of our chat doesn't make it on. Okay, so from the public, are there any other comments or feedback on the commission's testimony? All right, seeing none, then do I have a motion to adopt this testimony in support of Bill 4?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. So I will transmit this updated draft to Karan after this meeting, if that's okay with you, Director Gonzer. And then we can proceed to getting the signature on it and submitting it for testimony.
Yes, thank you. We'll take a final crack at formatting
yes.
and send back for your signature.
Perfect. And before we move on to the next agenda item, we will vote. Thank you, Vice Chair, for the reminder. If by show of hands, you can all indicate, those of you who support adopting this testimony. Okay, we note that all 4 present commissioners have voted in support of this. So I will stop sharing my screen and go back to my agenda. All right, so now we move on to agenda item 8, which is communications and correspondence from the public. I'd like to start with the correspondence. I'd like to note that we did receive an email sharing a recent Civil Beat article on forever chemicals that have been found in Hawaii's environment. And just for general information, I share that now in the chat. And it's about PFAS. In addition, we received, how would I say this? We also received additional correspondence sharing about some upcoming legislation about Senate Concurrent Resolution SCR 200 and Non-Concurrent Resolution SR 99, and House Concurrent Resolution HCR 124 and Non-Concurrent Resolution HR 125 that call on the federal government to enact carbon cashback. So those are also available for the public to take a look at the words on those resolutions, but it wasn't anything substantive in terms of any like formal testimony. So at this time, I did want to open it up to those who are present, either on Facebook or on the Zoom. If any of you would like to give any testimony or additional communication from the public, and I'd just like to remind you that comments and testimony from the public are limited to 3 minutes each. Okay. Sometimes we have very exciting commission meetings where we have a lot of testimony, but today we do not. So we will proceed on to our next agenda item, which is public input for matters not on the agenda. I just wanted to note that we have had some kind of really productive discussion about how we can make more public and disseminate the findings, or not really the findings, but the content of our climate brief. That certainly wasn't necessarily directly on our agenda, but it's something that I think we should keep in mind. So I just wanted to recognize and thank JMAT for participant JMAT for calling attention to that. It's something that we need. Is there anything else that isn't an agendized item that members of the public would like to bring forth for us to talk about or discuss? Okay. We are moving right along. Okay, so we will go to agenda item 10, which is our tentative next meeting dates. And Director Gonzer, please comment on if you have any updates for me on that. But I have tentatively that our next meeting date is April 21st, and after that, May 19th from 9 to 11 a.m.
I don't have updates. That was the commission's sort of regular beat of monthly meetings. Happy to accommodate as appropriate. Well, just a note on the 21st, that is Earth Day. There might be some things happening, but we'll make sure to have coverage if that is the date that the commission ultimately wants to have its next meeting.
That is a good point. I don't want to take away from other events that are happening, and certainly we may want to personally participate in. So perhaps we can ask Karan to send out a poll to see if there are any other dates in April that might be accommodating. Because I know that that is, around the state, around the United States, maybe around the world, a very important date. Commissioner Otsuka?
I just wanted to add, I know it's a little bit short notice, but maybe that's a good time for us to have our in-person meeting, and maybe we can do a site visit and or community work day for celebrating Earth Day.
Yep, that is a great idea. And as you know, one of the major areas that one of the main things I wanted to accomplish during my chairmanship was to bring back live meetings with the public and to hear from the public. And I do want to say it's been a little bit complicated because the mayor is having all of these town hall meetings, and we wanted to definitely not take away any resources from that, and because it's so important for the public to participate in those town halls. So yeah, I think this is definitely open for discussion. I'm seeing that we have a number of holidays we need to be mindful of, and that there may be other people who are not able to participate in person kind of discussion, in-person meetings. So why don't I start by suggesting that Karan maybe put out a poll and we can just get a sense of availability. And then if it looks good, it looks good. The other thing I wanted to say is we know that this commission meets very regularly. And so if we do need to skip April, I think our work can still continue, and we certainly will have a lot to discuss in May as well. So for sure, I don't want us to be held to that because there's just so many great events happening. Any other comments from the public or from OCCSR around this agenda item?
None, Chair, from CCSR.
Great. And then kind of our second to the last item is announcements. Director Gonzer, you had brought up the ISR seminar, which is happening next week, I believe. Commissioner Otsuka, I just posted something in the chat. Can you, do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I have 3 announcements, and I was trying to post the third one. So the first I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is the Hawaii Energy Conference and Exhibition is happening May 24th to the 25th at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. I believe today is the last day for early registration. So if folks are interested in that, I put a link to the agenda for more information in the chat. The second item I wanted to make everybody aware of is it's been out for about a month now, but the Hawaii Department of Transportation has launched their e-mobility rebate. So this covers electric bikes and electric mopeds, and you are eligible if you are eligible for either Section 8 or SNAP. You're eligible if you don't have a registered vehicle, and then you're also eligible if you're an enrolled university student, and that includes community colleges. So the rebate is 20% off or up to $500 off of e-bikes and e-mopeds. I also put the website in there for people to reference also. I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a really popular way for people to get around, which is really exciting. And places like Denver have seen a huge reduction in their vehicle miles traveled. So people are really using it in place of their car, which is really exciting. So in partnership with the Hawaii Department of Transportation, the State Energy Office is going to go and do engagement in predominantly low-income communities to let them know that this rebate is available. My last announcement is the notice for funding opportunity for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant is out and due July 10th, 2023. So this is a federal competitive pot of funds that our City Department of Transportation Services, as well as the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization are eligible for. So they're eligible for things like developing an action plan, or implementing said action plan. And I also included some statistics on our safety or traffic violence, unfortunately. So on average, 1 person dies a week in a traffic crash on Oahu. People walking are overrepresented in our fatal crashes, as well as our serious injuries. And then finally, our kupuna are more likely to be killed while walking or riding a bike on Oahu than other aged folks. So it's really important that we are considering safety in our climate efforts, because we can't expect people to use more climate friendly modes of transportation if they don't feel safe doing so. So I know that the City and County of Honolulu Department of Transportation Services applied for a grant last year and wasn't awarded. So I'd like to encourage them to apply again. On the plus side, the city is dedicating funds in the most recent transportation improvement program and is getting more involved with building walkways when they haven't before, because we're having such terrible traffic violence statistics. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but I want to make folks aware of that and bring to attention some unfortunate traffic violence statistics. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Otsuka, for telling us and informing us and the public about these events. And those statistics, particularly about the vehicular violence, I don't know how else to call it, is just really tragic. And yeah, definitely need to kokua and just malama each other on that. Are there any other announcements about events happening in that from the public that we don't know about? I'd like to invite members of the public at this time to please share with us if you have any information that you think would be helpful to the efforts of this commission. Okay, well, we have reached the end of the agenda, and if there are no further comments, this meeting is adjourned. So thank you, and we have ended 15 minutes early, which I think is great. Good job, everybody.